Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm rather taken aback by Graham's and Paul's slides. Very impressive. Unfortunately, I don't have anything like that. Although I will write up my thoughts, which I'm going to present to you now, and post them, so you'll have some permanent record. Okay, so what I'm going to be talking about is projects of a networking and security flavour. Now, these take various forms. Sort of the vanilla version would be to design a network. Now, you've done something similar to this, those of you who've taken networking concepts or networking and operating systems. You'll know something about this, the splitting up of a network into its component subnets, working out how those subnets are going to connect together, providing an addressing scheme. All of that is important, but in a project, you're putting that sort of thing into a much wider context. So you'll be starting with a customer, and the customer has requirements. And those requirements need to be converted into a specification. You're going to need to know how many workstations, how they're going to be organised, split, you know, a little bit about the geometry of the building they've got to go into, how the different subnets are going to have to be arranged. You're going to have to know what services are needed, so what service to implement and what services they're going to provide. Whether you're going to use DHCP, you're obviously going to need some form of DNS, web services, database, email. All of these things need to be built into a specification. The levels of usage, the amount of bandwidth which is going to be consumed by typical usage of this network, and all of this is going to go into a set of user requirements, which you're then going to analyse and produce a solution for. Now, there'll be a degree of research about this. You're going to have to research different products, look at vendor data sheets and so on, find out what's available, what are the best components to use for this design. You're going to have to research different protocols which are going to be used, how the security is going to be implemented, what kinds of firewalls and encryption are going to be used. Cost is important. You need to work out that you're providing a competitive cost for your customer. Then you start with an architectural design. Start off with sort of large blocks. This is what's sometimes referred to as a bottom-up approach to design. You start off with a high level of abstraction. These large blocks within a block diagram, representing the different areas within the network, and then these can then be exploded to reveal the inner workings of them. This could be simple work groups connected by switches. It could be something more complex, could be using VLANs. And all of this will come together to create a detailed design. You'll be going from an architectural design, conceptual design, to a detailed design. And then, of course, you're going to need some form of implementation. Now, of course, you cannot implement a small to medium enterprise network in real components. It'd be far too expensive. So you're going to need some form of simulation. What a lot of students use is packet tracer. Now, you'll all be familiar with packet tracer from having done it, or at least those of you who've done networking concepts should be familiar with packet tracer. But that is excellent for functional validation of your network. You create a virtual implementation of it in software and then validate its performance. If you want to go a bit further than that and investigate how well the network behaves under load, you can go a bit further and use software such as OpNet or various other network simulation softwares available for assessing performance on networks. So you'll have progressed from your detailed, your conceptual design, your architectural design, your detailed design, and then moving on from that to a program of testing and demonstrating that your design fulfills the user requirements that you set out in your original specification. If it does, then good. If it doesn't, then ask yourself how can the design be improved so that it does meet the requirements. And on the basis of that, you'll write up your conclusions, and that is your project. Every year, I supervise probably about 3 or 4 projects like that. It's the standard vanilla version of a networking project. Now, if you want to do something a bit cleverer, a bit more exotic, that's good, because all of us are conducting our own research. And very often, we come up with little problems here and there which we haven't time to follow up. We often think, wouldn't it be nice to do this, or try that, or investigate this, that, and the other? Is this, find it would be nice to sort of work on this problem to see if this is possible. And we often don't have time to follow these things up. But these often make excellent topics for final year or master's students projects. So if you're interested in doing a research project, one of us can probably find you quite an interesting problem to work on. That, I think, is usually the best sort of research project. The not so good research projects tend to be the ones where people think, oh, I'm going to research blah, 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 general subject area. Like I'm going to research IP version 6, or I'm going to research, oh, I don't know, BB84 protocol, or this, or that, or the other, without any real problem that they're addressing and attempting to solve. But if you've got a particular problem to start with, that can lead to some quite excellent projects. There's one idea I've been thinking about over the last day or so. Eckhart Flugel, you all know Eckhart. He's a great one for steganography. This is to say, message hiding. And the great idea at the moment is to hide messages inside images and then to send them over social networking channels. And then to send the keys for extracting those images over that information over a different channel. The question is, how do you do that without making anybody looking at those 2 channels suspicious? Well, the answer is to make them just look like ordinary innocent messages. How do you do that? One idea I've been thinking of is having a program which could look through past messages, the sort of messages people send, get a statistical model of what word tends to follow what other word, and write the program so that it produces more typical sentences of a similar sort. If that were done cleverly enough, there's a chance that possibly those might look like they came from real people rather than being generated by a machine. There's a chance that it might not be feasible either. But you know, finding out whether it is feasible would be the purpose of the research. And I think somebody could get quite a good project out of that idea. And there are many other small topics as well which can be sort of taken up. They require a bit of background research on, not so much on vendor information, which is what made most of the information gathered in the standard networking project require, but research of peer-reviewed journals, people who've done a time to try to do similar sorts of things in the past, how well it did, assessing what could have been done differently, and then coming up with a new approach, and then following that through, generating some results, and assessing how good those results are, and then on the basis of that, developing a programme for possible future research. Because research never ends, you see. You very rarely get to a point where this is finished. Usually there's always something which could continue on in a particular direction. A good supervisor, of course, will recognise when you've come up with a reasonable place to stop and encourage you to write that up. But good projects always usually end up with a bit of future, suggestions for future research at the end. Anyway, so that's really the two sorts of things, the standard design build and the more speculative type, investigative type research. Usually the second is perhaps a little more risky, but usually, very often produces some very, very creditable results. Okay. That's about all I really wanted to say. Are there any questions? Nobody? Well, please do come and see one of us. The networking type people, we've got myself, we've got Eckhart Flugel, there's Maria Martini, Christos, Politis. Graham, you teach networking, don't you? I don't believe you do networking projects. Do you? Yes. Yes. Okay, and so I'll write a few notes on what I've said, and I'll put the contact details for all of us. And if you're interested, we'd really like to hear from you. Okay. Thank you very much.